La 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 la. Me me me. Right. Oh no, half my head's cut off. That better? Yeah, that's better. Hello. How's everyone doing? Hope you're doing well today. I'm BoredGamer. You may remember me from such podcasts as talking about Star Citizen and this one. Hope you're all doing well. There's been a load of information about CitizenCon, so we will probably sort of focus a lot on that. There's been a little bit more 3.18 information when it comes to some of the stuff they've sort of shown off with the new Mercury Star Runner and 600i derelict settlement sort of hybrid. If anyone would like to ask any questions, question in brackets, and then sort of whatever you want us to ask in. We've obviously got the ship showdown as well. So let's go through some things. I suppose I like to sort of start by talking about what's new with me or Zin. A load of our mates are sort of like, and a load of people I know have got like headaches and are really, really tired at the moment. Like a big swathe of them, including Zin. So giving Zin the rest of the day off. He did the new stream video that's in the background. So every so often, every couple of months at least, I update the sort of background videos that I have, sort of to help inspire conversation based on a load of the new stuff from inside Star Citizen and things that we've seen, but also a load of cool footage from the past as well, from like CitizenCon or whatever. Paul, did you ever own a Constellation Phoenix? I've spawned one in. I've had them briefly. I've never bought and owned one properly. If so, was the Constellation Phoenix ever sold as a passenger transport? So some people assumed, and I can't remember if CIG alluded to that it assumed that the Phoenix would be able to transport VIPs because it was a luxury touring ship. Yeah, so I'm not sure what gameplay that's going to have in the future. It may well be that any ship that has a private quarters will be able to do some level of transportation of dignitaries and VIPs. Yeah, we don't know for sure. Was it ever sold as a passenger transport? I don't think it was sold directly as a passenger transport. That doesn't mean that it hasn't got the gameplay there, as far as I'm aware, anyway. Vandal kebabs and Vandal jerky harvesting, preparing and selling in game when they're sort of more fish-like, in my point of view. They're sort of Vandal tacos, sort of fish Vandal cake, like fish cakes. That'd be my suggestion. And as soon as we can, I think we need to have NPCs walking around in verse before we harvest them for their delicious meats. Gibbs, Starkit, and PTV probably will happen at some point. So, yeah, I want to talk about. That's a good idea. Just sort of a starter. We've got the ship showdown on at the moment. Bring this up on screen. We've got the Carrack versus the Scorpius at the moment. The Carrack's almost certainly going to win. And this round, there's only a couple of hours left, and it's up by 4,000 votes. It's good because I love my boy the Carrack. He's a good boy. And we've got the Scorpius. I do like the Scorpius. I think I prefer some other ships and fighters though. Like I think I prefer the Redeemer over the Scorpius, for example. So it looks like we're going to in the finals have the Carrack. The Carrack's going to be going up against either the Mercury Star Runner or the Pisces. Now, Mercury Star got 16,000 votes that phase. How many did the Pisces get? Pisces got 14,000. So based on very rudimentary data, I hope the Mercury Star Runner would win. Also, the Mercury Star Runner is my favourite ship. And Carrack versus Mercury Star Runner in the finals. Oh, beautiful. Because I believe the Carrack is like probably one of my top 3 ships. Might be second. It changes on my how I feel. But Pisces has no right to win. But people are more than welcome to vote for whatever they fancy and hold their opinions true to themselves. It's all good. But at the moment, there's a free flight on the go for the next couple of days with all 8 of these ships: the Redeemer, the Scorpius, 600i, Carrack, Mercury, Raft, Adventure Titan, and Pisces, available to everyone. And people can play Star Citizen for free at the same time as well. And these top 4 ships that we see here, the Scorpius, Carrack, Mercury, Star Runner, and Pisces, there will be some cool skins and other bits and bobs made for them for the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, we believe, later at the typically mid to end November. So, Ship Showdown, I liked what they did with the Ship Showdown this year. They put them into sort of categories, the ships-ish, roughly. Try to have more sensible paired options. Really like that. Thought it was pretty cool. Randall on your pizza. I would never have fish on pizza. Never. Thank you. The reason I asked was there was a gamer now calling the Constellation Phoenix main role as a passenger transport ship. So it's luxury touring. It's a slightly better, more advanced version of the Constellation Andromeda, in my opinion, or the Aquila, in my opinion. Got some luxury stuff aboard that make it potentially better for VIP transportation. Vandal of Fish. So there's sort of some of their design was based on them being like anglerfish and deep sea. So they look a bit like fish, a bit like anglerfish. And they're supposed to have sort of iridescence, I believe, in their skin and things like that. Iridescence, thinking of make you brighty skin. You love pineapple on pizza, but I'm not gonna hate on your love of pineapple on pizza. That is entirely your own choice. I'm super reasonable with people. The fact I did not instantly ban you for liking pineapple on pizza means I am the most reasonable. Nice to see you. When do you think we can see the Drake Corsair? I think we could see it as early as Q1/Q2 next year. I don't think it's going to be able to make the end of year patch or /3.18. It's possible. I just think it's unlikely. What is Star Citizen? Star Citizen is a massively multiplayer online space simulation which goes heavy towards spaceship combat and various other spaceship-based roles. It's supposed to be a mixture of the spiritual successor to Wing Commander and Elite Dangerous, but with a lot more roles. There is a single-player campaign, Squadron 42. Like, what else do you want from me, Summer Yeti? I know you wanted to ask. That's actually quite a compressed little compact answer. But it is first person in nature. And when you're flying your ship, you're not your ship. You are the pilot flying your ship or crewing one of the other stations. How long is the road to 4.0 journey? Started at last year's CitizenCon. Okay, so I'm gonna make some comparisons and distinctions here. So last year was the road to Byro, the road to Alpha 4.0. This year's the road or the journey to 4.0. It's a distinction just based on that's what they're calling. That's what Citizen are calling their sort of theme this year: journey to 4.0. So there was a load of different panels and stuff. We know that they're obviously working on a load of that 4.0 stuff, like server meshing, like jump points, like pyro, and likely to be a whole load of like improvements with like Gen 12 stuff and potentially Vulkan and all this other jazz coming online with 4.0. We don't know when 4.0 is coming out. I'm expecting Q2 of next year at the moment, based on the delays with 4.0. It looks like 4.0 will be the go all the way into Christmas before it's live. Zin seems to think that it's quite possible and potentially even probable that it'll be Q1 of next year that we get 3.18 live, but we could see like an open this year. I'm a bit more bit more confident that we'll see a live build. We don't know for sure. I'll talk about more specifically what those panels are in a minute in CitizenCon. We know about, but there could be some more. But the length of the road, we do not know. But hopefully Q2 of next year, that looks the most reasonable estimate for it. I've been hearing rumours about a mid-sized salvage ship. Do you think that we might see this for the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo as one of the Animat ships? Quite possibly. It makes sense that they might want to do another medium-sized salvager. Is there dislike the Odyssey? No one ever mentions it. It's just a while away, and people already had it in their heads that the Carrack was sort of top-tier exploration, but now there's sort of like a sidestep to that, which is sort of long-term living out in the sort of verse, potentially with the Odyssey and its ability to stay out and just mine for its own quantum fuel. So it's an interesting one. I think people don't mention it too much because it's a while out, and I don't think it's hugely disliked or anything. People will dislike. Some people will dislike certain ships. Do you think the Mustang is underrated? It doesn't feel particularly powerful at the moment. I used to really prefer the Mustang Alpha over the Aurora. Now, I just recommend people get an Adventure Titan over both. I'd like to see some tweaks to the Mustang Alpha. Carrack versus Mercury Star Runner will be close. Potentially, yeah. I like the idea that we'll be close. I do prefer the Mercury Star Runner, but I wouldn't care one out of those two. Like, I love them both. When will Lorville, the rework for that, be done? Well, it's one of the panels at CitizenCon, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Do they smell like fish? Oh, we don't know what they smell like. Brother puts mayonnaise in his cup noodles. My mate Zen does the weirdest food combinations, so that doesn't seem too weird to me. God, it's love the content. Recovering 1 week out from a mild stroke. Help me with my sanity. Keep up the great work, brother. Robert Campbell, I hope you're doing well, my friend. I know a few people that have had sort of very minor strokes and things. It's still scary, obviously. I hope you get all your functionality back and that you are recovering nicely. So sometimes it can take a little bit of time to get fully back on your feet. So hope you're doing well, brother. Sorry to hear that. Life, I know these sort of things happen. Dill pickle and peanut butter in sandwiches. Those that would go with each other? Why not? That would go. I'm not a massive fan of banana. I'm not particularly anti-monarchy in the UK. I'm I'm for the constitutional monarchy as long as it's done well. It needs reform, in my opinion. Do the House of Lords and things like that. Reform them, change them, evolve them for the modern times. I don't just like remove them because that would be mad. That's not tenable. Think of stuff that's actually more viable as options. I do think that Lizzie was genuinely a great. Is hiring NPCs will be a real thing in the future. Will I be able to hire NPC as my gunner one day? Yes. So in the shorter term, you'll probably be able to put a AI module, like plug an AI module into a turret, so that it has some semi-autonomous function and was for you. But beyond that, and a better option would be an NPC crewman, which you will eventually be able to hire. How will smaller ships make it to Pyro? Well, they just go through the jump point. Obviously, as long as they've got a jump drive, they'll be able to go through the jump point. How will they be able to survive in Pyro? Well, that's a totally another question. They will run out of fuel regularly. There are going to be space stations around that are owned by various factions, sort of like that some of them are going to be pretty hostile to you, certainly. So just bear that in mind. we'll be able to get Starfarers to help you. But having parent ships operating out of a station and having larger ships, that's what you have to think about doing. Once Pyro is released, how long do you think it'll be until other systems? They're working on the Nix system as well at the same time, so it might not be very long at all. But we also then see the Nix system. And then once they've got 3 systems in game, I think they can probably get very close to having a beta if they finish a load of other gameplay content, evolving out towards the other systems. Yeah, I think that would be probably the sort of direction they go. They'll be releasing. It's not too hard for them to release Star Systems, sort of like short to mid term after they get Pyro and Nix out. They've just got all the tools ready now. With items being sold out at certain locations, could this also include fuel in the future? Yes. Fuel will go up in price as it goes down in the amount that's actually there. So there could be situations where you run out of stock in certain stations. Although they might have it so that fuel is just incredibly expensive and there's always a reserve. It depends on how they do it. So certain stations and planets might always have like well, technically an infinite reserve stock, but it's incredibly expensive. Yeah? It depends on exactly how they want to balance the economy. Because it's not entirely player-led or anything. It's in fact sort of simulated for the most part. And NPCs, sort of 10 NPCs to every 1 player sort of level. So players don't have a huge impact. Well, they can have a big impact on the economy. They don't have as huge an impact as, say, Eve, which is entirely player-led. I think you'll then sort of after the Nix system's in, you'll probably have Odin's system, which makes sense. They're sort of all connected. Phantom, Pyro, Nix, Odin. Odin's the star system that's going to be used primarily in Squadron 42 that they've obviously been building out. I'm really looking forward to base building. Like everything coming together is the main thing for me. The dynamic simulation, awesome. Then general industrial gameplay and being sort of fleshed out, crafting, that sort of stuff. But base building, very excited for that. How do you feel about CitizenCon not having citizens? Seems like the one time of the year CIG should go out and, in person to show the appreciation, in my opinion. Yeah, I know what you mean, but if you read the Chris Roberts letter from the chairman in May, they basically went, look, that people are, we're not 100% sure where the world's going to be with COVID and lockdowns. Obviously, people don't want to travel. There's obviously a lot of people who don't have enough money to want to be able to travel to us doing it in America or whatever. And we've got, we're trying to get a lot out the door at the moment. There's a new studio going on. There's a lot going on. So it makes sense for us to not have a physical events this year. However, I think very likely that next year will be a biggest CitizenCon yet, and it will probably be in the UK because of their new studio in the UK. However, they might have it in other locations around the world as well. They'll probably touch in with the other studios, or maybe question mark. Next year's CitizenCon expected to be massive. Do you think when we get physical damage tier 0... Oh, do you think we get physical damage tier 0 for 3.18 because of salvage? So there's a lot of people that were talking about that. So there's definitely some of the damage layers and the levels of detail for damage coming into 3.18 because of the hull stripping. I don't think it's going to be physical damage and physical component sort of level. It will have to get some updates before that's sort of integrated fully. I think physical components and the resource management system and physical damage probably next year, probably all next year. I think it's going to be their main focus after getting 4.0 server meshing, static server meshing anyway, and Pyro out the door. So we got here. If you have the option of the Polaris or Perseus, which and why? So, because I have lots of other ships, including like a Javelin, that serve the role for me of a Polaris, or bigger. I prefer the Perseus. I love the idea of a bit of a bruiser, being able to take on large ships, having that sort of firepower. I love the way it looks as well. So I'm a big fan of that Perseus. Do you think Chris Roberts will even bother doing a small intro piece to this year's CitizenCon like he did last year? I hope there's a little bit of a it doesn't need to be a keynote demo or anything, but just a little even a letter from Chris Roberts would be fine, or a little update of where we are with development and the longer term goals, something like that. I hope to see either of those would be fine. Do I expect them? They haven't said they're going to be there. I'd hope that they would. Why are some backers and content gamers claiming the Endeavour is an exploration ship and does not have heavy science? Not a heavy science ship. Did Ben in the Q&A state Endeavour is not an exploration ship, but a science ship? Okay, so the Endeavour is a heavy science platform, yeah? However, there are setups that it can have to make it not necessarily a science ship. The Hope Endeavour, for example, is a hospital ship. You can outfit it with a landing bay and the hospital module. It is a focused hospital ship, yeah? Now, it can also be farming. You can set it up with like greenhouses and stuff, yeah? But you can also set it up to be a bit of an explorer, because it's got the telescope on it. It can detach from the front of it. It can do lots of different things. So it depends on how you set it up its modules. It's not really fully defined. I would define it as a heavy science platform for the most part, but it's not entirely that. And I have a Endeavour Master, whatever it was, the Master Edition. I've got all the modules because I was like, I want an Endeavour when it came out. Since CitizenCon is going to be virtual again this year, will you be hosting a live watch party with Zin when you go both cosplay as Xian? No to the cosplay. Maybe the live watch party. I'll have a think how I want to do coverage. The main thing we do on the channel is cover stuff with YouTube videos. Covering it live for the whole day would be a mixture of fatiguing, but also meaning that I wasn't making a video summary and all that sort of stuff of what we watched immediately. I would be doing that summary as I watch it normally. So I don't know. Now, what do you think the sneak peek is a shot of? New Argo vehicle? The sneak peek? That's the Vault. So one of the Vault weapons, I think it's the Vault SMG. Latest sneak peek. Vault. Unless you meant something else. Vault Electron weapon. Pew, 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 pew. Looks like an SMG just because of the way it's stock. So we got and people claim things incorrectly about Star Citizen all the time, not necessarily to be malicious or anything, but because there's so much information out there, and a lot of the stuff is either stuff they've heard or stuff that Clown Imperium originally said but now have changed. So it's hard to keep up with the development. I mean, I'm not flawless in my my Star Citizen knowledge. I do keep relatively good notes and update them, which is sort of how I've been able to keep on top of most stuff. Should we guess on the unannounced ship for CitizenCon? Don't know. Don't even know if it's definitely going to be for CitizenCon. It might be for the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. However, it looks like there's going to be obviously the ship panel. And then we're going to be able to vote on potentially one of the new ships that Clan Imperium make, or at least in what order they make them, and sort of go on concept. There's a load of stuff they could do. So obviously, some people think a medium salvage ship. There could be some racing vehicles. There could be a huge range of stuff. So we got. Will the purchase of your new real-life home in 1 to 3 years coincide with Star Citizen in-game personal hangar gameplay, and will you utilise Squilla. I don't know. Like, I am looking to buy a real life house IRL at the moment. I the rest I'm a bit confused. Oh, Yeti. Oh no, it's Nvidia 101. So, something what you said. When you have your new house, will you build a room that looks like the interior of a Star Wars ship? I mean, I have a nice looking room to stream from, and actually set up my proper camera rather than the old Logitech one I've got currently set up. I bought a camera for live streaming, and I just haven't used it. I haven't got enough space really where I am at the moment. What else have we got here? Will we ever be able to easily transfer goods and SU between ships and vehicles? So, potentially, they're going to make the gameplay around that more refined. So you'll much more easily be able to interact with items, pull stuff off, track beam it, all that sort of stuff, load and unload. However, they want times and fees associated with loading and unloading at ports and things like that. So you can pay NPCs to do it for you, but or like the automated machinery or whatever to do it for you, but there's going to be times and costs associated with it. Do you think? So we talked about that earlier. When will we see the Odin system in Star Citizen? So we'll see it in game at some point. Obviously, it's the Squadron 42 star system. At least one of the main places Squadron 42 is set and featured. We know that Clan Imperium have been building a huge amount of it out. So I think we'll see it in game in the next couple of years, probably. Are they planning on adding any farming to the game? Yes, there's going to be farming. To what extent, we don't 100% know. There is farming modules that you can put on the Endeavour, so you can have biodomes. They've talked about changing the topsoil at places and having bases where you can have farms. Klesha, this is the prison, the only prison across the verse. I believe there's going to be multiple prisons, but there might not be one in every star system. I originally thought there was going to be one in each star system, or a lot of star systems, but I think they will just have them a few prisons, but it won't just be Klesha, as far as I'm aware. What needs to be done to improve server performance? General server optimization, server meshing, persistent entity streaming. They're working on it. And low ticks are one of the major issues for the servers, and server degradation. What do you think they have planned for orgs and when? So I'm expecting that orgs will be able to have shared facilities and be able to easily share ships between each other, have org bank, be able to see org, what org you're in at a glance, and if you're and other people's orgs at a glance, if you're at war with them, set up org wars, things like that. Generally, we want lots of organization and party options beyond that, so you can easily organize and structure people. Seeing all the org mates online, that sort of stuff, seeing what servers they're on, easily being able to drop across them. I mean, one of the other things is like getting distress signals and being able to specifically set who can see your distress beacons and service beacons. Org only, bam. Things like that would really help. What else have we got? News on the Apollo. No new news on the Apollo yet. When will we see exploration as a gameplay loop? So expect to, over the next 2-3 years, see lots of little bits of exploration come into the game. Lots of mini missions and lots of little extra loops and sort of general gameplay, which will then eventually be a nice basis for exploration. And then they can sort of add some science and more exploration survey and long-range missions to then sort of quantify or sort of bring together as an exploration gameplay loop. That's really what you want, isn't it? You want to be able to survey, you want to be able to scan, you want to be able to find stuff, you want reasons to explore, so it doesn't necessarily be exploration for... I need gameplay for exploration, you need, well, I need base building, so I need you to go and find areas where there's bases. I need you to find new asteroid fields, so like the dynamic universe simulation coming online, things like that. And you've got a lot of this stuff, the back end for it with pairs and then server meshing, all coming online in the very near future. Reasonable future. What else we got? Whatever happened to the Titan suit? We will see it in game at some point. It's important for the Squadron 42. I think they wanted to get it in Theatres of War whenever Theatres of War rears its head again. But when do you expect AI blades to be added? Probably next year, if they get some of the other AI work they want done. I think it's possible we could see AI blades end of next year. Is effective air defense the best counter to the A2 currently? So, good counter to the A2 at the moment is spreading out significantly on the ground, and then actually traveling at a larger distance with vehicles to a ship and loading into multiple ships, so that if the A2 does drop a bomb, it only takes out a very small fraction of what you've got. That's the best defense at the moment. You can obviously run Eclipses or another ship to ram it or something, or just have enough forces there to be able to take it down before it does its business, although that's very hard. Eclipses are pretty good against it. They torp it. Are we planning to add planetary farming and tractors? So we don't know to what extent farming is going to be in game, but we do know there is farming to an extent. Do you know if and when we have our bases / outposts, will they be able to be raided while offline? I believe so. The exact way that bases are going to work with sharding and that sort of stuff is a very different question. And to what extent they can be raided and attacked and destroyed, again, we don't really know. So they talked roughly, and sharding was like, well, yeah, the base would technically be on all servers, but only really be accessible on one at a time. And it was like, well, let's see what Cloud and Pim actually do in the end with it, because a lot of this stuff's up in the air at the moment. We don't know for sure. They probably don't know for sure. Would you smuggle flow pets? I really like the idea of a mixture of big game hunting and sort of smuggling the various little animals and things in Star Citizen. Pets are supposed to be a thing in game. Do you think the base building will be able to be attacked? Yes, I do. I think that. So if you've got a base in a UE area and you've paid for its protection, I think it's going to be very hard to attack those bases. In fact, I suspect those bases will be pretty invulnerable because the UE will turn up and sort of up there. There's not going to be a transfer of bases to anyone else. But if you're in Pyro or something, well, that's the Wild West, and that's going to be a very different thing. Has CIG ever talked about having ocean-bearing vessels like shipping, fishing, or military? Not properly. We do know there's some form of water-based vehicles. We've sort of seen hinted at on the progress tracker. And we do know they're building underwater gameplay to an extent, and obviously are working on various things to do with the water. We've got the BoredGamer org. We've got BoredGamer. Got BoredGamer org at the moment. We just haven't done anything with it more than just made it a social org. Zin will be organising things to do in game for filming and general chilling and messing around for the org at some point. Do you think there will ever be crossovers with other franchises, having some Star Wars, Star Trek items in game? They might have some things that are influenced by it, because I think Star Citizen's influenced by all sci-fi. So you've obviously got the Scorpius being an X-wing. They could do some crossovers, but it would have to be in the lore. Do you know what I mean? So they'd have game like video posters and things like that, and models. When it comes to quantum speeds, will there be a rework? In my opinion, speeds are too fast. Expect them to be updated and changed and evolved. We know that one of the major things that they are going to be talking about is ship combat and general speeds of ships and how they engage and how to deal with combat logging and things like that. So this stuff's going to change, but how much and exactly are there going to be new systems behind it? We don't know. Can they add stairs as a backup until they fix elevators? I would have loved to have seen that. It's a shame they haven't, eh? Any plans for orbiting planets and moons? That is still the plan, to have orbiting planets and moons with dynamic splines so it can work out where you're on something to. Do you know of any good orgs who make small movies using Star Citizen? I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there are definitely some. What else have we got? How did you get into streaming and Star Citizen streaming in particular, like Circumstances, Decision Point? So it's more YouTube videos that I made. So I was doing Titanfall and Diablo 3. Had quite a lot of success with Diablo 3 videos. And sort of in 2014, end of 2014, somewhere in 2014, I went, oh, I quite like Star Citizen now, after following it for a little bit. Not many content creators on it, and certainly not the content that I want to consume. So I went, I'll make the content I want to consume on Star Citizen, and then sort of never looked back and sort of evolved it from there. A few years ago, I also then started to stream Star Citizen, just once or twice a week, just chatting about Star Citizen, mostly more to get in touch with the community and get ideas for videos and sort of work out what was being talked about more than anything else. It's obviously also good for getting subscribers and donations and all that sort of jazz as well. But it's and a bit of a nice change for a day. In the background here, we can see the barbecue pits where they might be cooking people. Right, we'll be back in 1 second. I'm just going to bio, and then we'll talk about. I'll answer some questions quick, and then we'll talk about CitizenCon. Chris Robertson, Body Ted, you're in charge. I have returned. Right, what we got? Let's power through these questions and then talk about CitizenCon stuff. And when CAIGC says they've made a complete reconcept of like the Polaris, does that mean complete? So, it means they've gone over and double-checked everything and tweaked bits. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean they've entirely changed the way it looks. For example, the Redeemer was a complete reconcept. It will look the same for the most part. Do you think the Xi'an systems will have content related to them on day one? Yes, I think that we'll see some. Kurthak, probably not so much. The Kurthak are probably going to be included later. They'll sort of be hinted at. When is the Cutlass Black being brought up to gold standard? So gold standard changes every patch. Yeah, it's the latest, most up-to-date standard. It's gold standard. And expect a load of ships to be being brought up to the most appropriate, newest gold standard level over the next sort of couple of years. Year and a half, probably. They're updating a load of ships, and especially the older ships at the moment. So they've got all of the appropriate sort of compartments and areas for physical components and all that sort of jazz, because they're looking towards next year of doing the relay and resource system and probably physical components, which I think is incredibly important. For the last 3 years, I thought the focus was going to be physical components because it's so important for Squadron 42. It's so important for ship combat. It's so important for just the general gameplay of having a ship combat game that I just think, why haven't they done this yet? But it does look more and more likely now that's what's going to happen. Salty Mike! Oh, you beautiful boy. Thank you so much for the raid. That is very... Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you're doing well, sir. Hope you had a good stream. I was thinking about you the other day with if you were going to play Conan or Rust or something. Because I do fancy something that's more as a throwaway, just be a bit of an asshole kind of game that I could play with some people and then mess around and joke. I think Zin might be even a bit up from my editor. She typically finds certain things pretty stressful. Like she won't play Rust anymore because she said it was the most anxiety-inducing experience that she's ever done. Just because we spend quite a lot of time building bases and planning stuff, and if it gets raided or destroyed while we're offline, she gets very annoyed and upset about that. Or at least she's just anxious that it's going to happen all the time. But thank you so much for the raid. That is genuinely appreciated. We're playing Conan. Student. As I remember, you were a top tier lad to play with or against last time. So awesome. Hello and welcome. Thanks. Oh, good times. Good times. I hope you're doing well. And thank you very much for all of the beautiful Salty Mike's audience joining us. We're just chatting about Star Citizen. Feel free to ask some questions. I was just going to move on to CitizenCon, talking about some of that. Do we know how adjustable quantum speeds will be applied? Nope. They've not talked about them yet. Question for Floating Head Chris Roberts. What keeps you so youthful and happy looking? The money. It's all the money that people keep on spraying at him. What have we got here? What? What? Oh my god. Look at all these. He feels just so memey. So when water gameplay comes in, will criminal orgs be able to give people concrete shoes and toss them into water? I hope so. Tether people to the floor. So I want to talk about CitizenCon, which for some reason I don't have tab open on my computer because I'm a dum-dum. Let's talk about CitizenCon for a bit. So we know that CitizenCon this year is on Saturday, the 8th of October. So that's in 25 days. 25 days, almost exactly. We know it's going to be at 3 p.m. UTC, and it's going to be an all-day live-streamed event. And there are various panels that are going to be happening. There might be some more stuff beyond these panels. But some people think that we're going to see some new ships at CitizenCon this year. They might release something, and that's possible. And we do know that they said that a new twist this year, this is voting on a new ship to come. So in 2019, basically they had 4 ship/vehicles that are now actually released in game, with like the Rock DS and all that sort of jazz. And actually, the Raylan isn't released in game, so fair. But it's likely they're going to show off a load of rough concepts for plans they've got in game for ships, and they'll go, which one do you want us to make first? Because it's very likely they'll make all of them. But they'll obviously be talking about some cool stuff that they're going to be doing to ships, modularity for ships maybe, all that sort of jazz. And I hope that they do go, and there's something entirely new, and it's out now. Because it's cool to have a ship release maybe at CitizenCon, as well as the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo later in November, which is like the big ship event of the year. Got Power Play as well. So the theme of this year's CitizenCon is Journey to 4.0. Distinctly different from the road to Alpha 4.0 or the road to Pyro. Yeah, distinctly different. Because the words are different. Got the resource management, Power Play. So this is super important for them getting physicalized components in game, and for damage control, for multi-crew, for all that sort of jazz. The ability to sort of route power, all these materials, like power or fuel being turned into power, and then distributed to the appropriate systems, and those systems being able to have their power cut off or be damaged individually. You're able to reroute power through power relays. Very, very much looking forward to that. But Lorville Redux. So you want Lorville to be expanded, its sort of visuals to be improved, its cityscape to be improved, new areas to do missions in. That's what that's going to be about. And I want to see one on ArcCorp. I want them to go, we're redoing ArcCorp with all the latest new tech, and it's going to be in your hands, and bam, look at all the cool stuff we can do. I think that in Alpha 3.18, when you see the sort of updates they've done to Orison and the platforms there and the missions you'll be able to do there, even when the Siege of Orison's not running, you'll be like, actually, some of these landing zones mean that we can get straight into gameplay much easier than previously. Because there's a lot of faff with Star Citizen. Immersion's great, but if I have to spend half an hour after spawning just getting to a location to then do something, and then spending 15 minutes getting back to where I was, that can be quite soul-destroying if there's a bug or a problem. The need for multiple speeds. So, if you want to know what's happening with Star Citizen's combat model and the stuff they plan to do with ships, this is what it's going to be. That's the panel for you. We know all about how speed impacts combat, but now learn how master modes, initially developed for Squadron 42, will impact the flight experience for Persistent Universe and better define ship roles for all vehicles in Star Citizen. So hopefully this will go, well, actually there's quite a bit of difference between light, medium, and heavy fighters. They're different roles, and bombers and the larger ships, and they all have their sort of areas of expertise. And well, this is how we're going to also have ships fighting in closer proximity to each other without making everything super slow. Because we don't want people jousting. We don't want, well, at least the main dogfight mechanic shouldn't be jousting. The new underground, we know they're working on new caves, sound caves, acid caves, ice caves. We also know that they've been updating the modular and procedural tech for underground facilities and general buildings and space stations and stuff as well. But this is gonna more focus on that underground content, those underground bunkers, those caverns. Hopefully, there's some cool stuff they can show us there, and they can go, look, we've got a solution so that NPCs spawn in the caverns and in the bunkers consistently. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Design brief investigations. So, what was actually this? Explore the pitch process for a new mission archetype. Okay, so all new mission stuff that's going to be very, very deduction and investigation and it's storytelling based. That's cool. I'd love to see a lot of stuff like that. I think those are probably the hardest, most lengthy missions for them to build out, because it's hard to have a true investigation mission with a lot of storytelling that's sort of semi-procedural. They go, well, actually, this is a more on rails thing that you can only really do a few times before you know how to do it all. And then Planetary Pyro, looking at the planets and moons of Pyro, exploring their current development status and how they've evolved since, like, they're not just burnt husks, they're not just empty. They've got civilization on. They've got those outposts on. There's lots of space stations, and we do know they're going to be looking at those space stations and those colonial outposts. Hopefully, we'll see some cool stuff on the Pyro Crab, the Whip Crab. But yeah, so CitizenCon, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a live stream throughout the day. I hope that we see a little tiny bit, just a little tidbit from Chris Roberts, just or a letter from the chairman from Chris Roberts, just going, "Bam, this is where we've been. This is where we've got to. This is the plans for the next year or two, roughly." It'd be great to see him just do a little mini video on that. But a letter from the chairman would also be fine. So I'm hoping to see those. Don't know what other people think might happen. 3.18 PTU during CitizenCon. So I'm hoping that we see, and we don't know yet. I'm hoping that we see 3.18 go to Eve Carty later this month, so at the end of this month. I don't think you're going to see anything more than PTU during CitizenCon. I think we might see Open PTU /live by the end of the year. I think that's just too much to test. Common PvE is good, is it? Okay, I'll take a look. I am very much into my co-op survival games. What's we got here? What else have we got? Do you like crafting games like Space Engineers, Minecraft, Icarus? Do you get excited for crafting in Star Citizen? Yes. So crafting to some extent in Star Citizen, I think's pretty exciting and pretty useful. So I'm looking forward to it for sure. But to what extent are we getting crafting in Star Citizen? We don't really know. Is it just going to be sort of fuel and minor items and potentially consumables, or is it going to be actually full munitions, ships? We know we're going to be able to do base building. We know we're going to be able to exploit resources. We know we're probably going to be able to make drugs and stuff like on the Endeavour. But it's beyond that, we don't know. We haven't talked too much about crafting. And I do like some crafting games. I've briefly played Minecraft. I haven't played much Space Engineers at all. Icarus I really enjoyed, but it was a bit too time consuming, eh? I do my own mapping currently, but with the new star map coming, might we have some form of mapping be a thing? Surveying will, and finding and discovering areas. So I don't know how it's gonna. I don't know how the star map's going to save mapping information when you find new things. I don't know how that's going to work, but I suppose it has to, doesn't it? Do you know that they want to have it sort of mini maps and things like that? So it's not just a star map. It's going to be quite an in-depth map system, I believe. Regarding base building, do you think CIG will allow substructures like basement or at least subterranean garages? Maybe. So what I would love to see is modularity in base building. So you get your bases and then you can add to it later. So if you want hangars and things like that, maybe just a platform that technically has an underground garage on. That's what I'd like to see. I'm not sure if that's going to be the solution they go for. They haven't talked about it. I don't know how viable that is. There was a update on Gravity recently. Was there an update on the push-pull, which I missed? Not that I've seen. So Gravity, we know that they're working on gravity generators. Gravity generators will be a thing. And they're sort of doing some physicsy stuff for Gravity. Are we done? Are we done with the questions? I think we are. Boom. Right. And that's sort of bang on an hour. So I'll be getting a news video out in a little bit. Just sort of talking about what happened last week, what's planned for this week, stuff about the chip showdown, all that sort of jazz, and very, very brief look at CitizenCon and what we've got expected, all that sort of jazz, for anyone that wants to watch those. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me today. That's very much appreciated. Thank you very much for Salty Mike for raiding. It's very much appreciated. Well, no, that's me. I'm about to put myself back on. Who is around at the moment? I'm going to chuck you at Moist Needle because he's my boy and I love him. So give him some love. Flash raid, boom. So give that boy some love. Thank you very much for joining me today. Oh, look what we've got. I have one more question. Does the touring role now have 2 different roles? Did CIG ever state the touring role ever had 2 roles? If so, can you point to us? No. So touring, luxury touring vessels are sort of, there's no specific role to that. So things like the 890 jump, luxury touring, but you can use them for an exploration. You can probably use them for VIP transportation. Lots of ships are more than just the few words they use to describe them for a role, and a lot of them are moddable beyond that, or have focus modding, like the Endeavour. You can change it into a hospital ship, you can change it into a farming ship, or it can be focused on various forms of research and science. But thank you very much for all the questions. Genuinely appreciated. Chill for something, that thing, buy that product. Thanks very much for watching, and love you guys.